Welcome to Wake Up with Joni, the podcast where we explore what it truly means to live awake, aware, and aligned in a world that's constantly asking more of us. Here we dive into real conversations about healing, resilience, embodiment, conscious choice, and spiritual wisdom, bridging science and soul so you can navigate life with greater clarity, compassion, and courage. Each episode is an invitation to remember who you are, reconnect with your inner knowing, and choose your life on purpose. Today, I'm joined by Tabatha DeBruyn, a transformational breath master and one of the certified 9D breathwork practitioners. Tabatha specializes in nervous system regulation, emotional resilience, and stress recovery through science-backed breathwork. Her work uniquely blends conscious breath, immersive sound, one of my favorites, and somatic practices to create full body transformation. I'm excited about this because regulation and stabilization are two of my biggest goals for myself and everyone out there this year. I'm excited for this beautiful exploration, and I'm glad you're here, Tabatha.
Thank you so much for having me. The fact that I get a chance to help others realize how powerful their breath can be in any given moment, to feel different in the body and the mind, it's a real gift. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I have to tell you, just listening to your voice, it's so soothing. You are in the right work, I must say. So thank you for being here. Tell me, was this what you've always done, or was there a journey along the way that brought you to this? I always like to start at the beginning.
There's certainly a journey. This is not what I went to school for, but I know with every fiber of my being that I'm exactly in the place at the right time. So
Mm.
I'll tell you the cliff notes of my story. I started my career as a high school teacher. I taught English drama, personal fitness, and dance to kids for 15 years. Loved it, loved empowering students to have a hunger for learning and growing, but to see more in themselves than they thought possible at that moment. But
Mm.
the problem with teaching, as much as I loved it, is you're in a box when it comes to the scale of impact you can make, but also the income. And I have been blessed. My husband and I have been together for 30 years. I feel it's like our fifth marriage with the same person because we're always evolving. But we've been together for 34 years, married 30 years, and we have two beautiful children. Not easy, but as a mom of very active, sports oriented boys, I found that no matter what I did in the way of teaching, I was spending what we were making. And that nudge to see if I could find another way of making money that aligned with who I was came in, and I found entrepreneurship. And I fell in love with the freedom, the idea of if you work for it and it's aligned and you take that inspired action, like the world's your oyster. So I built a multi-million dollar global business alongside full-time teaching while raising the kids because it was
Wow.
so aligned. It was a calling, and I was really enjoying what I was doing. So I left the classroom, not because I had to, but because I really felt the world became my classroom. I wanted to travel the world with my kids. I wanted to get into mission work. And we did that. We traveled the world. We've been instrumental in building a school in Guatemala. I now work with one in Tanzania. But while I was doing that, I was also getting into coaching, transformational coaching. I got into that about 16 years ago, teaching and training other startup entrepreneurs and high achievers to let go of limiting beliefs and step into their power. But I felt I was coming up against this brick wall almost every time. I wanted to say, if I could take my eyeballs out of my head, put them into yours, you would see what you are truly capable of and destined for. But these limiting beliefs kept coming up. So I went back to school and I became a rapid transformational hypnotic therapist and worked with the subconscious mind. So I was working with the mindset. I was already certified in metaphysical psychology. And then I added in the spirituality, but also the subconscious mind. I was building these businesses and raising kids. My mom became very ill at 58 years old, rapidly. And that caused a lot of upheaval in my family. There was PTSD and anxiety, depression. It was a lot. And I had a lot of tools and I had the capacity and the freedom because of entrepreneurship to be able to serve and look after mom in many ways. And I was a primary caregiver for her. She was so ill, and it was that up down thing. We never left anything unsaid because every day was a gift that they said I would never have. But I actually had that for 10 years. Again,
Wow.
not easy, but what a gift. So when she passed at 68 years old, quite young, I knew I would grieve. And I was okay when I was supporting other people, when I was in my work. But when I was in the privacy of my own thoughts all by myself, I was having panic attacks. My hands started going numb. I started to have heart palpitations. I had insomnia. And I was embarrassed. I was the one people go to when they have these conditions. How am I going to share with other people that I haven't figured this out for me? But when the student is ready, I believe the teacher comes. And I was seeking another modality. And I found Brian Kelly. He is the founder of Breath Masters, and he is the founder of 9D Breathwork. And when he explained what he did with somatic breathwork, active, conscious, connected breathing, I thought this is different than any breathwork I've ever done before. And it really did align. I checked in and I bought a session. I bought an online session. He was in Bali and I was in Ontario, and I went all in. I really felt safe, even though it was different for me. On the other side of that 90-minute session, I was different. My body felt different. My mind felt at peace. I actually knew it was okay to feel joy again. But what
Mm.
happened was we went into the subconscious. What I had repressed, suppressed was a lot of anger that I had no awareness of, a lot of disappointment, a lot of frustration, a lot of sadness around what we would never experience, and even some of what I'd sacrificed for the last 10 years. And but I had no idea that's what I was feeling. So in this somatic breathwork journey, it wasn't like I relived any of it. I just became aware of it, alive of it, if you will, with this podcast. And it came up, and I really feel like I had this new understanding. It was almost like I had a conversation with my mom in ways, and everything happened for me. It had to be that hard. I had to know the depths of what functional depression feels and how hard it is to get out of, and know that this modality could help. So, on the other side of that journey, I decided that I was going to spend the rest of my life mastering the art of somatic breath work. And so I studied under Brian in Bali through Breath Masters, and then became one of his first facilitators of 9D breathwork. So not just a quick journey, but
Yeah.
one that was just one door open, one door open, one door open, one door open. So it really felt aligned, but it did take a lot of courage. And I know you value that because people didn't understand what I was doing.
I have to say, I'm sitting here listening to you, and I could just sit here and listen to you. You could just keep going. You don't even need me on the podcast. You don't even need me to ask what you're so eloquent in the way you convey what you're thinking, what you're feeling, your journey. So that was just beautiful. But I did take notes along the way because there were at least 100 things in there that I want to pull threads on. But one of the things you said was, I had to have this happen in order to make a huge shift. And so sometimes we talk about that. We have to have leverage on ourselves, the why. Why would I do breath work? Why would I do this? And as you're talking about what you've accomplished in your life, you start with being a teacher, which is the ultimate service, especially in today's world. And then you're Guatemala and was it Tanzania? Yeah. I'm like, I am such an underachiever, but there's no comparison. I know. Just much respect for what you've accomplished in your life. And you're so young. How old are your children? Did you have them later in the marriage? Because they sound younger.
My kids are 26 and 23. I'm 52
Oh,
years old.
Okay, okay. You look amazing, but I think that has to do with the breath work. It has to do with your outlook on life, which is so positive and of service. I think that keeps us young, that alive piece, which is why we do what
I
we
would
do for people.
I would wholeheartedly agree. Feeling regulated in your nervous system, all of a sudden you have this new vitality. And when
Yeah.
your body feels safe, your mind opens to letting go of negative bias and priming that we have all day long. And you realize the capacity you have to program your mind, your body, your aligned actions to go out and create whatever kind of life you want. And that's what I love to teach people. Some
Yeah.
people come in and they're like, I did one session with you, Tab. It is like magic. It's not magic, it's neuroscience. But
Hmm.
first, we created safety in the body. And then
Hmm.
we actually primed the brain to be in a position to be able to accept a new way of thinking and a new way of taking action that doesn't feel like the hustle, the grind, the
Yes.
frustration, and
Yeah.
rather ease, but with inspired impact.
You were definitely brought to the podcast and myself at the perfect moment because, and I've talked about it a couple of podcasts now. It has been about awakening. It has been wake up. You can choose your life. You don't have to be at effect of the things that are happening or the situations. You don't have to be at effect of. You can wake up and choose. But now I've shifted to regulation and stabilization because a lot of people out there, yes, a lot of people out there, there's a whole community of people that are doing yoga and breath work and psychedelics, and that's not something I do. It's not contempt prior to investigation. I think
I
they,
also have not explored that. I'm not against it with
Mhm.
the proper facilitation if
Yes,
it felt like a calling, but breath work, you get high in your own supply.
exactly.
We can go into a whole other realm of understanding consciousness. So I think we're on the same page there.
Yes, yes. So a lot of that's happening out there without the stabilization and the regulation. So these people are not being held, so to speak. They are aware, they are conscious, or they're awakening, they are awakening, but they're not being held. And when I say held, I don't necessarily mean by a person, I mean by how they move in the world. So, can you talk a little bit about that with the breath work and what you do? There's so many things that you do. I had no idea. You're like a treasure chest.
The beauty is that 9D breath work, and I'll explain, brings all of my favorite modalities and what I really feel I was destined here to communicate with others. It brings it all together. When you speak about being held, and I think this is of the utmost importance to have a trusted facilitator when you are really getting into rapid transformation. People want things fast. And I'm all for that, but you have to be ready to be able to hold that and move forward from an aligned place. And I think having somebody that you can trust who fiercely has your back, who there is no judgment no matter what has gone on, because it's all happened for us. It really has helped us become that exquisite being that can have compassionate understanding for so many others in ways. But having somebody guide you through that is really important. So, when people are interested in somatic breath work, which I'm really excited to get into, if they're looking for more information, I offer 30-minute complimentary discovery call. Let me help you move through any of the fears, see if it's truly a good fit for you, and know that you're supported. So I think
Mm.
that is a really big piece that people maybe just don't even think of before they jump into something like this. But it's not anything to be afraid of. We breathe all the time. It's part of our automated nervous system. But do you know that most people breathe incorrectly? They breathe incorrectly and it's become the habit, so it's become automated that they're stuck in fight, flight, freeze. But it's their norm, so they don't even know. So I'd love
Mm.
to teach your listeners how to use one breath to regulate their nervous system. It's a start. And so they can feel more calm and grounded in the body. Would that be okay?
That would be amazing. And when you say stuck in fight or flight, is that because they're up in their chest, shallowly breathing? Okay.
Why
Okay.
don't we start there? If
Okay.
you and your listeners could just take a second, just don't judge any of it, because all types of breath patterns offer something different in the physiology of the body and in the mind. So it's not like you're breathing wrong, but if you're breathing a certain way too long, then you become exhausted. You've got brain fog. You're in reaction. You're not in aligned, and your body hasn't had a chance to shut the lights down for a bit, come back to regulation, and so that you can turn them on again. But if you just notice how you're breathing, do you breathe through your nose or do you breathe through your mouth? Do you breathe longer on the inhale or longer on the exhale? When you breathe, do you breathe into your chest? Do your shoulders rise? Or do you breathe into your belly? However you're breathing, I'm going to tell you, great, you're good at that type of breathing. Now I'm going to show you how you can always come back to what they call the parasympathetic nervous system, which is where rest, digest, and heal, where you feel calm, where your vagus nerve is activated in a really positive way. Now, the vagus nerve, we throw that term around, but it's just really important to know the vagus nerve is the largest nerve in the body. It goes from the brain to every single organ. And when it's active, it shows that sense and feels that sense of peace in the body. So we do need to stimulate that. We need to activate that. But when you breathe, I would love for all of us to try to breathe in through our nose and breathe into the belly. Most people breathe in through the mouth and breathe into the belly, and it suck the belly in, the shoulders come up and everything gets tense. So now we're going to, on the count of three, 3, 2, 1, take a deep breath in through the nose. Try to push the belly out. Inflate that belly like you're bringing air in and filling in a balloon. Now breathe out slowly through the mouth like you're breathing through a straw. Longer on the exhale. One more time, breathe in through the nose. Expand that belly. Breathe out through a straw, longer on the exhale. Now, if you were able to close your eyes, because you can do this when you're driving, when you're in traffic, when you're in the grocery store lineup and you're frustrated, when you're arguing with somebody, just take that one breath. Now, I love to tell how it feels because I love all of the somatics, but at the same time, I want to talk the physiology, the biology, and the psychology, because that one breath brought your heart rate down, brought your blood pressure down. What I find fascinating, it brought more blood flow to the prefrontal cortex. So your brain works better. Now, the opposite of that is when you're in the sympathetic nervous system, which is fight, flight, freeze. And when somebody comes up behind you and they startle you, you go, and that's a deep breath in through the mouth, longer on the inhale, very short on the exhale. You didn't even think about it. Now, that's because the body's wisdom is brilliant. If somebody comes up and startles you, it automatically puts you into fight, flight, freeze. The blood went away from the brain into the biggest muscles in the body so that you could get out of danger. But if we just did this intentionally, and that's what this is, the whole Awaken podcast, right? You want being alive. If you consciously put yourself into that, it's better than a cup of coffee. It's just being aware of it. So if you're not driving, or if you have a chance to be really focused for a few minutes, I would love for you to try just breathing in through the mouth, into the belly, and then take another sip of air into the chest, and then relax and don't even think about it. Just let it go.
You breathe in through your mouth, a long breath.
Yep.
Then you take another sip.
Yep. Exactly. Long inhale, and I breathe through my mouth. If you could see me, you could hear, and when you're breathing, you're bringing a lot of oxygen into the belly, like inflating that belly, bringing it in as much as you possibly can. If you're in a safe spot, try this, and if you're breathing along, you would hear yourself in 3, 2, 1, into the belly, into the chest, relax and let go, into the belly, into the chest, relax and let go. Belly, chest, relax and let go. As much oxygen as you can. Belly, chest, relax and let go. Last one. Belly, chest, relax and let go. Now you probably feel like a bit energized. You feel a little bit of heat in the body. You might feel a little bit of tingling. You may feel a little bit lightheaded. And again, we took that blood flow away from that prefrontal cortex. Now, why we do this at times is because that beta brain, your conscious brain, that prefrontal cortex is where you have your ruminating thoughts, the thoughts you've had over and over again, the ones you've got emotionally anchored in there that aren't necessarily helping you live that life you love. So we quieted those with the breath pattern. But we also opened up 95% of your brain power because we could get into the subconscious mind at that point. So a somatic journey uses that breath pattern quite often in order to get rapid results. But those are two breath patterns. You want to be energized. You want to breathe in longer on the inhale through the mouth, short on the exhale. You want to be grounded. You want to breathe in through the nose and breathe out longer on the exhale.
I love this. Thank you so much. We aren't just talking about a tool they can use. You've now taught a man to fish, so they can do it on their own going out there. And it occurs to me that one of the reasons that you are so joyful about being an entrepreneur, one is you're very successful at it, but I read somewhere that the stress level of an entrepreneur is like that of the police force or the paramedics or the military, because, and I don't mean to diminish in any way what they come up against on a daily basis in their job. It's extraordinary. But that stress level, if you don't have the tools like you do, so one of the reasons you have such joy in being an entrepreneur is, when we talked about this before the podcast started, not taking life too seriously. So stuff happens, you bob, you weave, you breathe. I want to talk more about what somatic means, what happens. My understanding is when there's a trauma, and it can be mild, it can be intense, but within 48 hours, if not processed, lodges in the body somewhere. So how do we know, like you said, because you're such a gentle energy, there's a kindness to you, a softness, if you will, energetically, that one wouldn't think you'd be carrying anger. So I can see where you would have missed it. I'm sure I've got something going on. How do we identify? How do we find it? What do we do? And how do we get rid of it? Get rid of it. Is that the
And
word?
release it, let it
Release
go,
it.
heal
Thank
it. I always say you keep the wisdom,
you.
but we let what no longer serves you. And the body does the work. That's why, like, I'm all for talk therapy, but people will say one session is like 10 years of therapy in one session. Like, I feel lighter, I feel more expansive, I'm more hopeful. All of a sudden, I'm not gripped by some of this tension. And it's not magic, it's neuroscience. It's working with the physiology of the body, but then psychology of the mind. So with somatic breath work, we allow the active breath to move in and find the tension, because sometimes we're aware of it, sometimes we're very aware of it in our conscious mind. And we need to quiet that because we can create the stories and build the emotion and anchor that in with the patterns and the grooves in that beta conscious brain. So we want to quiet that. And then we want to move into where it happened, why it happened, how it happened without reliving it. You're at this detached witness. We pull out what no longer serves you, where that tension has been stored. Can be the emotional body, the physical body, or the spiritual body. That's why it is very difficult sometimes for us to understand with our words what we're feeling, what's holding us back, and why we just don't feel our best. Surprisingly, it can also be generational. You can
Uh,
have generational trauma pass through your cellular memory. So when we use the breath and guided coaching, now with 9D, breath work. These will all connect. I use breath. It is the most powerful part of 9 dimensions of this modality. That's what the 9D stands for. Breath is the wisdom. Breath is the medicine. It's just not pharmaceutical. You have it within you. The other areas, the other dimensions we use are music. Music evokes emotion. Emotion can help untangle some of that trauma, some of those limiting beliefs that we have anchored in. We use frequencies in the music, a lot of times 432 hertz, because it automatically puts the body in a calm state. We use binaural beats that quiet the brain waves. We use hypnotic suggestion to go in and program with powerful, empowering, positive thoughts, and guided coaching the whole way through to probe, to ignite certain areas of the brain. The body brings that through the breath, that tension up to the surface. And what happens is sometimes we cry. Sometimes we know what we're crying about. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we laugh hysterically. Sometimes I sweat like a piglet. Sometimes it's cold, stale air coming out of your body and you feel so cold. Sometimes you're yawning. Sometimes you're burping. Sometimes you're moaning and yelling and screaming. And don't let this scare you. This is the body doing it what it needs to let go of that old tension that no longer wants to live in the body. And that's
Mm.
why a trusted facilitator I've had the honor of breathing thousands of people worldwide. A lot of my work is done online as well as in person. I've breathed hundreds of people in a ballroom in Vegas a couple of times. Like, it's all welcome here. If you can know you're safe and surrender and let go of that control of, I need to stay here. The ego is really loud. It chirps, wants to keep you in the familiar. So having that guided coaching and all of the mind candy with this intricate soundscape, it really helps people drop into meditation, but to a whole new level because we've changed the physiology in the body. So to answer, how does that come out of the body? We use the body's wisdom in a safe environment. And then because of 9D, it's brought this cornucopia. I don't even use that word, but cornucopia of modalities all together. So it's not as much work. I think people think healing has to be a lot of work. And don't get me wrong, I work on my healing, and you are like peeling back the onion, but it can actually be fun and safe and empowering. So if anybody is afraid of it, that's why I do that complimentary session. Just come, ask the question.
I'm thinking that we would be aligned in the thought that it's going to be at their rate.
That's
They're
right.
not going to experience or uncover something they're not ready to let go or release, and being held, and you said it earlier, fiercely held, like fiercely having someone's back. I loved the way you put that. What are some of the transformations or examples of people that you've worked with, things that have happened for them?
Oh, there are so many.
Yeah.
Uh,
Highlights.
one, yeah, a lot of people come to me when they know they're destined for more. They
Mhm.
feel stuck. They're deeply saddened. Now, they often have this most vibrant smile on their face, and 5 minutes into the call, because I work with energy as well. They feel safe. They can bring the walls down and get to the point where we can uncover what's holding them back and
Mhm.
let go of that and move forward. Where somebody comes and the tears are flowing quite often because they're in a safe place and they are so stuck. They feel so stuck. And within 1 or 2 sessions, their vitality has gone up. Quite often, like, people will come and one of the things they want is, I want to feel better in my body. I don't love when I look in the mirror. And what I
Mhm.
do is I help people really fall in love with who they are. And when they do that, the cortisol goes down, and all of a sudden they've got more energy to eat better. to move, and then the pounds often shed. Now, that's
Mhm.
not necessarily the biggest result, but it's a nice perk. But they
Yes.
feel
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah.
And money portals almost always open up because they know that they're capable. They know that they're worthy for the first time. But I've had people come in, and quite often people are numbing. By the time they come to me, they are numbing in some capacity. There's an addiction, whether it be Netflix or shopping or alcohol or substance abuse or pornography. And I just want you to know there's a reason that you have turned to that. So let's take any guilt and shame away, and let's bring the power of your breath and your mind to the surface to let go of what you don't need and find that hope and that joy so you don't have to numb out.
As you're speaking, I want to ask this question, and I don't know if you know the answer. Do you find that different body types that hold on to weight, for example, that there's a common trauma, and so they're protecting? Their body actually puts the weight on in the area where they're feeling that they need to protect. Do you notice that? Are there certain body types?
So I can't give you the scientific, but if I go into my spiritual and my intuition
Mhm.
and my understanding of energetics in the body, absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. And when we bring it to light, and we no longer need to hold on to every possible way we can protect, then the weight tends to shed. But it's more than just holding weight. Quite often, when there's resentment, when there's heartache, when there's despair, when there's disappointment, we have a lot of shoulder, a lot of back, a lot of tension in the back body. So when we
Mm.
deal with that, all of a sudden posture comes up, shoulders come back, less tension and pain in the back body, but then the heart starts to open. And yeah, I could talk to you from head to toe in the body as to patterns that I see. And it usually is connected with the energetic spheres.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fascinating to me. I have heard that it's difficult to work with children and teens in terms of talk therapy because they don't want to open up, they're not going to talk to an adult, their brains aren't developed, and so on and so forth. So it would occur to me that this would be the perfect way to assist a child in their stress levels and if they're being bullied or if they are confused in life. There's a lot going on out there for our children these days. So speak to me about using breath work to heal or assist in their
I
growing up.
believe that breath work is brilliant for anyone, but you are absolutely right that our children are going through so much. I call myself in play, I say I'm the secret weapon for high achievers and their families. Because
Mhm.
when a mom or a dad is regulated, then they start to realize how dysregulated their kids are, and we mirror each other. But I just heard a stat that is staggering. 61% of Gen Zs are actually being medicated for anxiety.
Ugh, yes.
61%. Now, I believe that was in the US. That is a staggering stat that
Mhm.
we can help change. And I think it starts just simply by using the word breath in our vocabulary. Let's all just take a breath.
Yeah.
We are in reaction all day long. We do so much so fast. We're multitasking. And you're right, kids don't have the same level of opportunity to communicate. We don't necessarily sit around the dinner table without screens. Not there's no judgment. I get it. That's what society has made the norm. But yes, through breath, we don't have our screen. We are actually learning to feel what the body feels and allow feelings to come up. My 23-year-old son, and he has in the last 4 years, when I've really gotten into breath work, he said, Mom, I don't know how to be alone with my thoughts. And I thought, how profound to even have the awareness to be able to communicate that. And I said, and it's practice. It's like learning how to read, how to be focused with the words on a page and not have
Mm.
it be on a screen or have somebody be talking to you or watching a video. That's a skill. But the more that you sit in a little bit of silence, it doesn't have to be. I think you just did a retreat, or I heard on one of your podcasts, a silence retreat.
Yes.
But even a minute, let's just start with a minute of no screens, nothing in your ears, and just be with your thoughts.
Mhm.
And what
Yeah.
happens is a lot of kids and adults of all ages don't love the thoughts that they're hearing. And
Mm.
that's why this work is so important, because we're bombarded by negative bias because it sells product. It sells product. But if we actually could get people to stop and listen and program themselves with good thoughts, it'd be very different.
So I put my hands on my thighs. I didn't realize what I was doing. I was just bringing myself into the moment because I have these questions that I want to ask you. And so I really wanted to be here as I was hearing what you were saying. I would like it if you maybe gave them an assignment for after the podcast when they turn off this audio or the YouTube for the beginners. How can they begin? And you gave us two ways of breathing, and we don't have to do that for the beginner. And here's the thing I hear most: I can't shut off my mind, which is what you just talked about. I can't shut off my mind. I suggest they hold a crystal in their hand and feel the texture of the crystal, or if they put their hand on their heart, whatever it is to bring them into the moment. Even set a timer. That way their mind isn't going, how long I've been here. I love these people. So let's give them a little tiny assignment for right after this. What would you say?
Okay, I'm going to give an assignment that you can do in 1 minute, and it's scientifically backed. The fastest way to regulate your nervous system and raise your frequency, which in turn is going to allow you to attract a higher frequency in the way of ideas and people and thoughts. And what else you would like to manifest? The first would be the physiological side. You're going to take a deep breath in through the nose into the belly, and then you're going to take another sip of air, and then you're going to relax and you're going to breathe out with an audible sigh, which is going to allow for a vibration to trigger the vagus nerve. So you're going to breathe in through the nose in 3, 2, 1. Breathe in 60% into the belly. And now take a sniff and audibly sigh.
Ah,
Now I would like you to think about 3 things you're grateful for. 3 things that it can be the warm smell of a cup of coffee and my hands around that cup, the sun coming in on my face, what it feels like to have my puppy up close to my heart. And the last thing I would say is put your hands on your heart and say, thank you.
thank you.
And notice how you feel. And then get up and do something.
Yeah.
You want to actually use that beautiful state and get up and go and do something, something that makes you happy, something that'll make you feel productive. Just one thing.
Beautiful. So you talked about how the parent regulating, then they realize that their children are not regulated because of the contrast. And what you're describing is the open loop. So when, for example, somebody's in the hospital, the ones that have the family sitting near, helping to regulate, helping to keep calm, helping they know they're loved, all the things, there's an open loop. They heal faster, they come back from comas. So the open loop in the family, in particular, I've heard happy wife, happy life. If we start with mom and then dad and children, and then their friends will be affected by their open loop, their regulation. And so I see this going out into the world. I really do feel that's how this is going to change. What do you think?
Absolutely. I would say, and I have 9D breathwork exercises that people can do, moms can do to
Mhm.
remember. Like it is the most important role in so many ways, and it is so wonderful, but it's hard. I get it. and having them breathe to downregulate, have them breathe to activate, and then to be able to affirm, because the subconscious mind is open, how good they are and how well they're doing. So something like that can make a world of difference. But if you haven't done that exercise, and I'm going to offer, like, to your listeners, I'm going to do a 7-minute, a 9D cinematic trailer so they understand how that is, but they get to hear it and experience it. If they sign up for my newsletter, they'll get it for free. Then a 5-minute breathwork 9D full system reset, just 5 minutes. They can do over and over again, and then a 7-minute morning routine. But if they don't have those tools, then I would say take that physiological sigh into the belly, another sip of air, audibly sigh if you can, or just longer on the exhale. Get down to their level. You're regulated, they will mirror. Put a piece of music on, change your physical state, and then down regulate. Move body and take a pause. We so often, many of us empaths, I think, to different degrees, but the kids are dysregulated, they're frustrated, then the moms pick up on that energy, and it's this cycle. So as a mom, this is in my book because I actually had to use it. If you were to ask my kids right now, what happens when mom's going off the deep end and my brother's going off the deep end, the other brother says, marshmallow. It's our safe word to bring us back to the fact that we're dysregulated. And we as a family, even though 26 and 23, if someone says marshmallow, it doesn't happen very often. We don't abuse it. But if someone says that, nobody says one more word. We take 5 minutes and 5 feet away. And we come back, and then we have a discussion. But I'll tell you, because I taught it. So when they use it on me, it's like I take it very seriously, and it doesn't feel good in my body because I want to be a great mom. I go with my ego and say, wow, I've taught them a tool, but guess what? They now have the tool in their families with their partners.
That's incredible. The first time I was dating someone who was actually a therapist, and he said to me, I got triggered by something that you did. Can we have a conversation about that? That was the most mature thing I'd ever heard in my life. And I said, sure. But he then gave me that tool. So every relationship thereafter, it's, whoa, I just got triggered because he wasn't blaming me. He was saying, I got triggered by something you did, and I would love to discuss it so I can navigate the unknown and figure out what was going on.
I
This
love
tool,
that if we have more of those conversations.
yes, I've used the word pineapple. But I didn't have these tools when I was a mother, I'm still a mother, obviously, but when they were growing up, it was a dysregulated Disneyland. Yep, I mean, it was such a potpourri. So I love that. And I want you to please share with the listeners your website. Thank you for the offerings for them. That's amazing. The name of your book and where they can get that, I assume, on the website. So could you share that with us now?
Absolutely. It's Tabatha.online, and Tabatha's Tabatha. People like to spell it with an I. And my book is called Ordinary to Extraordinary, an inspired guide to living the life of your dreams. And you can get that on Amazon. My book, I wrote 10 years ago. I'm due for another book. I feel it's percolating. My book it's autobiographical. So I share the real, the honest, all the way through from teaching to where I was 10 years ago. But it gives the best, simple, practical mindset tools that you can have in your back pocket and can be life-changing. They work for me. They still are. I use them every single day. But now I have online my 28 days burnout to brilliance. And it starts with I'm in my pajamas because this is very real. This is very human. A lot of people do this at night or first thing in the morning. All the sessions I did them live, but they're also pre-recorded for self-paced, and you can go back and review them. But I start with a mindset tool that's game changing. Then I teach a breathwork pattern that is going to help your body feel a particular way and help your brain work a particular way. Then we do a 9D breathwork practice, a short one, so that we start to automate this. So you're not going to have to think, oh, how did she say? You're like, oh, when I feel like this and I want this is how I will breathe. And your body just starts to automatically do it. And I finish with a 9D breath work and meditation, which anchors it all in to the subconscious mind, again, making it not as hard, not the grind, because it's working in the automated nervous system there. So that is like a combination of my book and breathwork practices on video.
Okay. And it's 28 days, you said?
There's 28
Second.
sessions. Ideally, they would do one a day, but I know that can be a lot for a busy schedule. So you do it at your own pace.
One of the questions I wanted to ask you earlier was you do these sessions, hour and a half sessions with people. Okay. Do you record them so they can go back, or is it now it's released and you don't want to revisit? How does that work?
What I do is when it's a private session, I do it on Zoom. You
Mhm.
can have your camera on or off. I do ask you to use headphones because of the stereo sound. You never know where it's coming from. Do
Mhm.
go to that 7-minute cinematic trailer. It'll blow your mind. And it's
Okay.
so fun at the same time. But then I do record that on Zoom so you can go back. And it's different every time because you're different every time. Much like when you read a book, you close it and you're different. And then you go back and you're like, did I even read this?
Yeah.
I have an entire library. Like it'll really surprise you how many different journeys for different things. But remember, the breath is the wisdom. So no
Mhm.
matter what journey you tap into at that time, you're going to get what it is you need. But yes, they can go back to those self-paced courses, but they can also get, when it's a private session, they get the recording. When they do a group session with me, I do group sessions online every Tuesday night at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. So it's more economical. And a lot of people love the community of
Mhm.
people doing the work and open to these modalities, and the community and relationships that are made from just coming in and meeting some people. It's extraordinary, much like what you create with your podcast listeners. I would encourage people to also, if they feel connected to what we've talked about today, I'd love for you to follow me on Instagram. I have a personal page, which I like people to follow me there. Take what you want, leave what you don't. I give a look, breath work and mindset practices are at the root of who I am. But you get to see those with my family, you get to see it in the travel and just in my daily practices. But then I also have, that's just at Tabatha DeBruyn. I'd love for people to realize I'm a real person who cares about you.
Mhm.
Slide into my DMs, talk with me.
I will have all of this in the show notes for people. One last question, no, two last questions. The second to last question is this. When they come for the breath work and they're working with you one-on-one, I'm hoping for them that they get the coaching interaction with you, because I think your insights into what is going on leading into the breath work and then coming out of the breath work would be incredibly valuable. So is that part of the session?
You're absolutely right. The integration after is incredibly powerful and different for everyone, both in a private session. Obviously, that's much more one on one back and forth, but
Mhm.
in a group session as well, whether you choose to share or not, I encourage you to stay on and listen. Take
Mhm.
some time for the blood flow to come back and for you to find your words. People come out of these and they're like, that was freaking wild. I
Mhm.
don't even have the words for it. But what happens is when other people unpack their journey, it brings more awareness to your own journey. But yes, if you want to share, that's never hurried. I always love to hear people and be able to collaborate back and forth. The beginning, I always ground the room, whether we're on Zoom or whether we're in person, and make sure you really thoroughly understand what may happen. Just like carrying an umbrella, I want you to know so you're not surprised how to breathe, and that you are the captain of your ship at all times. You can put your foot on the gas and go deeper. You can put your foot on the brake at any time, pump the brakes. And I teach you exactly how to be able to do that because you are in control. So that's a really powerful part. And then for people that really want to have that fast transformation, I do private coaching and privately curated breathwork journeys to meet what their needs are to shorten that learning curve.
Beautiful. So are you ready for the last question?
I am.
How do you recommend that the listeners go out and live their most alive lives?
I would say realize that your breath is more powerful than you may think. It's literally your superpower. Remember to downregulate in through the nose, longer on the exhale. Remember, at any time you want to be really focused, you want to be charismatic, you want to have courage. Let's activate for a little bit of time. And then once the body feels safe and alive, I want you to go into the psychology because your words are like spells over your life. And I want you to tell yourself and know you are whole, perfect, and complete as you are, and absolutely a gorgeous work in progress. But you are worthy of a life you love.
Words are spells over your life. So be very careful to curate what you're saying to yourselves. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Tabatha, for being here. What an amazing conversation. I feel soothed just being in your presence.
Thank you. It's been a real honor. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on Wake Up with Joni and being part of these meaningful conversations about healing, awareness, and conscious living. If today's episode resonated with you, please take a minute to rate and review, share it with somebody that you love and may need to hear the message. Your support helps this work reach further and deeper. The show notes will contain links to connect with Tabatha and explore her offerings and her breath work, as well as links for my website, wakeupwithjoni.com, where you can explore retreats, leadership offerings, coaching, as well as my link to my book, Stop, Look, Choose, Your Journey to Peace and Freedom, which is really a great little workbook to use in between times. So until next time, stay awake, stay curious, trust your breath, and choose your experience with intention. Now, beautiful humans, it's your turn to go out and live your most alive lives.